Hello everyone and welcome back to Paper Peony. I'm Kimberly Jones and I'm an independent demonstrator for Stampin' Up. Here is my second sample using the camping theme, and it is using the Adventure Together bundle that is found online. Here is the stamp set. It's very cute. It says Happy Campers, Let the Adventure Begin. And then it also has some really unique dies. Here are the dies I've got out that I'm going to be using. But it comes with, obviously, the ones that cut out your images. But it also has this rectangle for cutting out the Happy Camper saying. It has a door where you can actually make the door open if you want, or make a three-dimensional door. It has the trees, and then this one is a little label die that we're going to be using on our saying, and it has a tire track, which is really cute, has a grass edging, and then of course the one that cuts out the camper. So we're going to be using quite a bit of dies out of this bundle. Really enjoy this bundle. It's a lot of fun, and so we're going to be creating this card. This is one that is just a traditional card. It doesn't have a gift card holder in it at all, but you can make it a gift card holder. All you would have to do is put like a little piece of cardstock right here, and then just put your gift card in it if you would prefer to do that. There is a lot of stamping, coloring, and die cutting involved in this, so I did some of these in advance, but I will show you how I did color everything and how this card came to this creation. So let's get started. Every product I'm using is Stampin' Up, and in the link in the video, you can go to my Stampin' Up website, look at these products in closer detail. When you hit the Shop Product tab, it will give you different options. You're gonna wanna choose the online exclusive if you're wanting to look at the camper more in detail. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do, I'm using a sheet of basic white, and I'm gonna stamp all my images. So I'm gonna stamp the camper. We're going to be using Memento ink because I'm using our Stampin' blends, and they're alcohol-based markers. And so when you're using alcohol, you definitely want to use Memento black ink. Stays on, works wonderful on non-porous surfaces, but it also will only work with like a water-based marker, and these are alcohol-based. So you definitely want to use the right ink when you go about using markers. Okay, then I'm going to use, I mounted both the saying and the chair on the same block, and I spaced them enough where I should be able to cut them out with the dies. Okay. And I did go ahead and stamp the fire pit, and I'll show you how I colored that. All right, so the blends that I'm using is the Smoky Slate, the Daffodil Delight, the Real Red, and then I am pulling together some Pool Party for the windows and the windshield. Okay, so what I did is I started with the light Smoky Slate. Some prefer to start with the dark and go light. I prefer to go light to dark. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the fine tip, and you're just going to outline where your gray is going to go. A lot of this is going to color itself when you go to do that because you have a small space to color. See that right there, just going along the awning has colored that space right there. And then if you kind of like outline your image, it makes it easier to color as well. So like if you go in here and outline the window and the door frame, note that this is the awning string right here and not a harsh line as far as the camper itself. Okay, and you're just gonna keep going around and just color that in. Now, what you're going to end up doing is once you get this colored in, it doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to do a lot of shading after this, okay? So after you do that, then you're going to color in those hubcaps with the light gray. Okay, you're going to color the steps light gray. And I believe that's it, okay? You can go ahead and color the fire pit too. I just colored this whole thing light gray, and then I did that band on the top with the dark, just to kind of give it some dimension. Okay, so then you're going to take the dark smoky slate, and I just kind of went in and just colored that band right there, and that's all I did with the fire pit. And then on this, you're going to color the tires, and you're going to use that smaller nib again. I only use the brush when I'm dealing with a big area, because you tend to make a lot more mess ups with that nib if you're not careful. Okay, so there's that. And then if you want, you can outline your images, like the window, the door, and all the lines to the camper. So notice I didn't do that line because that's not the camper line, that is the awning line, okay? So keep that in mind when you go to outline your camper. Okay, and then come in and outline that a little bit. If you want to kind of shade that awning a little bit, you can. You can come up here and kind of do a shadow effect there. I kind of went in here and kind of did a little shading on the steps. And then the top I wanted to kind of stand out a little bit. So I just colored that the dark gray. Now you can leave these lines like they are, but I prefer to go in with the light and go back over and blend that darker, harsh line in. And it softens it up a little bit. So you're just going to go back over and you're just going to color again what you already did. Okay, and it's going to dry the shade of the card. It looks dark now, but the alcohol will evaporate from these markers and lighten it. Okay, and then I did the dark daffodil delight on the door, and I just went in and I just colored it. That's all I did. Didn't do any funky effects. Just be careful going around that window. Okay, and then I did the headlight tail light. The light red is what I used to do the awning, so I started the back one and just alternated. I live in Arkansas, northern Arkansas, and we're home of the Razorbacks, and Razorback is red and white, and I'm telling you, if you've never been up here in this area for a sporting event, you will never see any fan bigger than a Razorback fan. Maybe Texas, but you know. Okay, so there's that. Okay, and then on the chair, I did the same thing. I did the red and white, so red, kind of just alternate them. Now, keep in mind, these are alcohol markers. They will bleed a little over the line that you make it, okay? So be careful not to go over a lot because it will start bleeding. See how that's bleeding already? I'll show you here in closer detail here in just a second. Okay, see how that's bleeding in the lines? Okay, so you don't want that, and it's really hard to do on a little stamped image like this. So all stampers, all crafters have a tool that they go to and they can't live without, and mine happens to be a Uniball white gel pen. I get these on Amazon, and I get them in the bulk where you can get the silver and the gold for the holidays. And these are a saving grace. If you ever have a mess up, you can use these to kind of go back in and color the lines that you don't want. See how I can go in and kind of fix those lines? So I love these Uniball pens. Okay, so then after the chair's colored, then the last part of this camper, I used the dark pool party. And here's why. I went in and I did just harsh lines. Just like that. And then I took the lighter and I went in and I just kind of colored that in. To give it some shading. And it's going to dry to look more like that. If you can see that, okay? Even though I love it dark like now, it will lighten up. Okay, and then because I do not have the Granny Apple Green blend markers as of yet, I went ahead and this is an alternate way of coloring if you don't have the blends. You take the ink pad. We have these blender pens, and it comes in a 3-pack. And these are just very wet markers. And it will grab whatever ink you put on it. Okay. And then you're going to go in and you're just going to color the leaves to the flowers this real pretty green. And no more. Now, this does not work real well on big items or big spaced items. Like if you were to color this camper, I would not recommend this technique because it will start, what's the word? It kind of scruffs up your paper. It balls up your paper. That's the word I'm looking for. It balls up your paper. So it makes your paper look like lint. Okay, so you don't want to use these in large areas. Okay, so now after you have that, then you're safe to go in with that light red blender pen and do some like little red flowers. Why not? Make it look inviting. Okay, and so your camper's colored, your chair's colored, and so is your fire pit, okay? And what I did is I just took the dies, I put them over the items, like so. Centered them, taped them down with the Post-it tape, because then it will come out like you want it. And then there's a chair die as well. But I went ahead and prior to this video and went ahead and cut out a chair and cut out a camper and hand cut out my fire pit. And I hand cut it because I did not want to go around the flame. This is daytime, so I just went in where the fire is and just used that as my cutting mark, okay? And here is what it looks like when you do that, okay? Okay, so next I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut this label out using my die cut. And while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and do the tire track as well. Okay, and we also have a square that we have to cut for the background. Okay, so I'm going to come in, and if you're new to our die cut machine, you're not familiar with it at all, I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel that is strictly going over the basics of how to operate our Stampin' Up cut and emboss machine. So please check that out. And then I will go in and do a more advanced one using embossing folders and things at a later date. So I have that cut. So now with that leftover white that I just used, I need to get the stylish dies and get the square. Bear with me. I think it's that little one, but we're gonna try and see. Nope, it's the big one. So this is the biggest stylish shape square that you're going to want to use. And you're just gonna come in and cut a square using that die. to build your scene on. I've been doing a lot of circles, so I thought a square would be appropriate this time. Okay, and then we have all our, well, wait, no we don't. Let's go ahead and do the tire track as well. So the tire track is on a piece of pecan pie. And the pecan pie is a, without telling you wrong, let me measure it again because it's been a while since I've cut this piece. The piece is 3 3/4 wide by 4 1/4 long. And this is the pecan pie. And you're going to take this tire tread and you're going to place it along kind of like about 1 inch from the bottom. And then you're just going to run it through. Now what you're going to find, we're going to put a label across that. So you may not want to go all the way across. I did on the original, and it's fine that you do it that way. But you can see, let's look at it and see. Yeah, the label is going to cover that completely. So unless you bring it in more, and we can very well do that, we'll go ahead and do another cut. So he looks like he went for a very far place. Hold on, my paper's crooked. And I do not want it messing that up. Okay. It's gonna look ruffled at the top, but that's fine. It looks more aged. Okay, so you're gonna go through and you're gonna cut one more little section off that pecan pie. Okay, and then it's as good as gold. It's right where it needs to be. I love this little die. It's so cute. Okay, and so see how you're left with this, and that's fine. And what you're going to do now, a way to get out from having to come in and release all these little pieces is if you run this through with a dryer sheet, it will grab all these little pieces and you won't have to sit here and individually punch them out. Another idea would be to get our little brush attachment that we have in our die cut area of our supplies, and it actually brushes these little segments off of your cardstock. I've never invested in it, but if you get some real intricate dies, it is a lifesaver. Like some of our background dies. Okay. Now, because I actually, when I did an overlap, I actually went in the same places and it really tore up that center section. So for this sake, I'm probably going to put my label there to cover that boo-boo up. And that's great and fine. That's something that you need to know how to do. I mean, everybody has boo-boos and mess-ups. Okay, so now that we have all of our dies done, then what we're going to do, let me get my silicone mat. You're going to take, now I did not do this with the original. So what we're going to do is we're going to splatter this pecan pie, and then we're going to splatter this label as well. And we're going to use, let's see. We're going to use, I have a, let me see. I have a brown blend that will work for this technique. So let's just do that. I don't have pecan pie, but I have one close to it. Okay, and this is the bronze. Let's hope that this is not too dark. Let me see. And see, this is, what you do is you just flick the brush end on the cap and it will splatter your cardstock. It looks kind of like a mud splatter, which I think is kind of cool. And we're going to do that with the label as well. Okay. Okay, so we have that done. We're going to set that aside and let that air dry. Now we're ready to build our scene. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do, here is our background. And what I did is I took my blend sponge, my blender brushes, and I took Pool Party. And just kind of sponge this sky. Kind of like just kind of went in and kind of took that white off of the sky, like so. Okay. I didn't want it to be stark white. All right, and so now we're ready. And we did forget something. I forgot to cut the grass, but that's okay. We can do that at the very last part of it. Okay, so we're gonna bring in our camper. And I'm going to put this on dimensions. And alcohol markers will bleed through cardstock. So that is normal that you're seeing these markers bleed through this because that's just what alcohol markers do. So it's important to use really good cardstock. And know that when you're coloring your item or your image, that you're not bleeding through something else. Okay, so here is my camper. We're gonna kind of put it up a little high because we have a scene to build. Okay. Then next we are gonna have to cut our grass because our grass is going to kind of cover that tire base. Okay, so let's go ahead and just use that grass die cut. Let me find that real quick. Okay, I had it right here. Oh, here he is. He fell. Okay, so we're going to take this and the die cut, and I bring my die cut machine back out. And just put this here and just run across the front with it. And it's going to form create two different grass borders, which is kind of cool. Okay. Make sure that's going to be long enough. And it looks like it is going to be long enough. So we'll improvise if it's not. Okay, so I am going to glue this down. Let me cut this where it's a straight line. Cut this off. Okay. Okay, and we're going to come up here. We might make our scene a little bit lower. We're okay to do that now, but after this scene sets for a little bit, the pop dots, after about, overnight, hours, whatever, you're not going to want to move. You can't move your items after it sets. Okay, so then you're going to tuck this in. I kind of bring this grass up a little bit. There you go. Let that grass sit there for a little bit, and then you can come in and cut these ends off once it sets for a little bit. Okay. And because I have this second line here, we can go in here and actually make a second. Let's do that. Let's make a second grass line on this one. I didn't think to do that with the first one, but it may add some more character to it. Okay. All right. Now let's pop dot put our chair on dimensions. And I don't want a whole chair on the bottom of this, so I'm just going to cut these dimensions in half for these smaller images. And put that back right there in the seat of the chair. Okay, and we can just set that right there on the grass. Okay, Now I did, because I didn't like the white standing out so much, I just took a blending brush with already green ink on it and just kind of shaded those legs to that chair so there wouldn't be so stark. Okay, and then you're going to take your little fire pit. Now I used a mini on the fire pit because it's so little. I just kind of put 2 little minis on here. We sell both mini dimensions and regular dimensions. We even have black dimensions for, like, if you're doing a black based card like for Halloween or something and you don't want the dimensions to be seen. It's kind of a cool concept, actually. Okay, and then you're going to come in here and you're just going to put your fire pit close to your chair. And then I had this pecan pie scrap and I thought, oh, it'd be really cool if we just created some fire logs. So you're just going to cut some little strips, not have them too long because they need to mimic fire logs. I took like you can take any kind of mark or whatever here, but I had a fine tip Stampin' Right black, and I just did some squigglies along these fire logs to make them look like, well, firewood. And you're just going to glue them down. I glued one flat like it was laying on the ground to be burned later. And then I picked 2 and put them on dimensions. Now I used a real thin, and this is something you can do besides using the foam strips. On the edge of your dimensions, you have like a border, an outside border. You can just take those and cut them into strips like this and use them on your fire logs. And that's kind of what I did for this particular project. Now, if it's too long, just trim it off. But I just kind of made it look like there was fire logs coming out of the fire pit, ready for it to burn at night. So, okay, and then this one's a little bit skinnier, kind of off. And they don't have to be perfectly cut because firewood, if you've seen firewood, it's kind of wonky in some spots. Okay, and then there is my fire pit. Now it's dry enough that you can go in here and snip these off. Like so. Okay, and now we're ready to build our card. So you're going to take a piece of real red, and this is a 8.5 by 5.5, and you're going to come in and you're going to score it at 4 1/4. Let me get my scraps off here. 4 1/4, and you're going to score. Okay, so it's going to open like a book. Okay, and I'm going to bring in my bone folder to give that crisp fold. So when the card stands, it will stay standing up. This is your smoky slate, your light color cardstock, and it is 4 by 5 1/4, and it's cut like 1/4 of an inch shy. So you have a nice red border around it. And I did the same with the second one for the inside. And this is a light enough cardstock that you can write your message on. So I kind of left it at this color. Okay, now you have this piece, and I put this up on dimensions. And so regular size is fine. And remember what I said earlier, you always want to even out your dimensions so it doesn't sag, your card doesn't sag in spots over time. So here I'm using quite a bit of dimensions. Mainly because when you spend this much work on a card, you definitely don't want it to get damaged in the mail. So, and no one's going to take better care of your card than you. So don't ever put 100% faith and trust in your postal service people, because They don't care. Okay, so we're going to take all these backings off of these dimensions. And now you're ready to put this kind of up and center. Like so. Okay. And then your Let the Adventure Begin is ready to go on, and I kind of just glued flat the top and the bottom, because keep in mind you've got this thing in the center, so you don't want to put glue on that. So I'm just going to put mine right there to cover that spot that I have going on. And then I glued this. Now because this is on dimensions, I only put flat glue or like green glue on that bottom section, because the pop dots are going to make it kind of stick up. So only that bottom needs to be glued down. Okay, and then there is your card. And then all I did after that is we have these new neutral dots, and these right here, these brown ones, pecan pie I believe is what they are, kind of just fit with the theme here. So I took these bigger ones and just kind of scattered them on this tag, if you will, and that's not dry because it's moving, and just kind of put them where there was space, empty space on that tag. But there you have it. There is this card. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you give this a try. This set is a lot of fun, and I do have another creation using this bundle. So stick with me. Come see me on the next one, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye, guys.